Thanks everybody for coming. How was the chocolate? Is it okay? Yay! Chocolate is always good. So I appreciate your time, appreciate you coming. I know it's been a long day. How do you like the show so far? Yeah. I'm actually really surprised. It's my first show after COVID. I'm like excited. The energy here and people talking to people are actually talking to people. This is so nice. So I know this is supposed to be a 30-minute session. I know it's the last session of the day. I'm gonna try to cut it down to 20. Is it okay with you? Okay, so hi. As I said, my name is Pavel. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Kebula. I've been working with data for over 20 years. Around 2000s, we actually built a large portal network around Europe. Then actually in my next company, next venture, I was servicing 15,000 SMBs, and we were automating their marketing process with data and machine learning. I'm pretty technical, but back then, to get the data, it was always such a hassle. Nowadays, we have cloud. We have all the modern data stack. We can choose anything we want from around me with just one click. So how is it that working with data a lot of times feels like stepping on the Lego brick barefoot? So that's what we're gonna explore today. And that's why we started actually Kebula, to solve this. And at Kebula, what we do, we help companies which are fast growing and ambitious to change how they engage with data. We actually help them to create, as our friends at ThoughtSpot put it, a true digital twin of their business in data. That was my dream back then, 20 years ago. I wanted to know what is everybody doing on daily basis. All my customers, how are my processes in data? It was almost impossible. I think it's possible to do it now. Okay, so 3 weeks ago, when we were actually preparing with Paul and Rick the webinar with ThoughtSpot, I actually asked my network of C-level people, how did their relationship to data change after COVID? I was really surprised. I didn't expect this. Over 53% of C-level people in companies like Dropbox, VMware, or PayPal, they said that what they are doing with data now, or what they want to do, is not just reporting or ad hoc analytics, but they want to go and automate processes. That was something really new for me. We've been saying that all of us for years, right? But that finally clients want to do that. It was really awesome. And then I asked them a couple more questions. I asked them who should be responsible for data initiatives. And for the first time ever, I've seen such a high response rate, 58% of them saying it should be a C-level who is driving data initiatives together with BI. And that has significant ramification. Because finally, data is on the C-level agenda. Can I ask you, do you guys see the same or similar things with your clients or in your organizations? Yep, awesome, that's perfect. I think COVID was a big driver of digital transformation, and I really love that. So how come we are still waiting for data? This is, when we come to new clients, this is always the situation, still waiting for data. Okay, so today we're gonna explore why I think that is, and what I think we can do with that, and what we have proven. Before I actually start, are you familiar with the long tail? So just quickly, long tail is a concept which started around Google. Chris Anderson actually came and he said, well, there are in the search engines, there are millions of keywords which are being searched. Some of them are being searched millions times a day, but the rest of them, 99.999%, are being searched only once in a month. So-called long tail. And the same concept applies to Amazon versus Barnes & Noble. The same concept applies to Netflix. What actually I find interesting is that the same concept applies to data use cases. If you go to organizations which actually are data-driven and they are first data, what you find, and this is actually the real use case from a real client, and I'm going to share the numbers at the end, is that there's just a couple of big use cases that we are all focusing on. Customer 360, supply chain, the use cases which go around the company. But they are hard to do. And because we focus only on them, we sometimes lose the long tail. We lose 5 times more utility that we have, 5 times more revenue that could come from the use case in the long tail. So why is that? Well, we all know that the world has changed, right? That's why we are here. 20 years ago when we started, the data meant you had a database, you had one ETL tool, and one visualization. That's it. Nowadays, with the SaaS tools, we have hundreds of data sources, and we have clients who expect us that everything is going to be personalized and within a second. There was a presentation from Vertica, and the lady was showing, how they expect the customers in milliseconds to be served the personalized offers. Yes, that's the world we live in. And that has led to explosion of possibilities what we can do with data. So the typical data pipeline went, and nowadays we actually did a calculation, it's 14 different steps, 14 different new markets. If you look around here, there is $1 billion company in each one of these steps, nowadays. And this doesn't take account, the reverse part, the automation into new sources. And that is a huge problem. Jay Kreps several years ago actually founder of Kafka, described this pipeline. I think, the image speaks for itself. This is really complex. And the way we go after it, and the way we try to solve it is that we have so many tools that we can play with and we can put together. Firebolt is one, upcoming, like one of the technologies in the modern data stack, and they are here. And their VP of Alliances, Nuras, several weeks ago said that when he was at Looker, they thought that the modern data stack is going to be just 3 layers: ELT, data warehouse, and visualization. That's it. That didn't happen. Nowadays, we have 5 layers and we have 4 more creeping in. So the complexity is really, really big. Yes, it is true that you can go around, you can pick any tool and you can do amazing things. But you need to operate all of them. You need to operate them. You are actually looking for superhumans. You are looking for someone who is a developer, who can do DevOps. You're looking for someone who knows modeling and data, how to work with data, and who has business skills. So it's no wonder that one of the biggest problems that clients actually state is lack of people. Because we are looking for wrong people. We are looking for supermans. They don't exist. So what can we do? Well, we can change that. And I think there are 3 simple steps, simple, it doesn't mean easy, how we can actually change things. 2 of them are kind of like change management. They are soft skills. We need to change processes, how we work with the data. We need to change how we work within the teams and the architecture. And yes, the third one is the technological. We need to provide infrastructure as a service, the data stack as a service. So let's take them one by one. What happened several years ago is very interesting. Maybe a lot of you actually, the big talk of the day is DataOps, right? You see it every day today. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you didn't see that, right? There was a DataOps manifesto which was signed by just like 1,000 people 2 years ago. Nowadays, it's everywhere. And I think and then data mesh, Zhamak come with the data mesh concept, and what those two actually have together is focus on, think about what you're doing. Are you in prototyping or are you in production? Think about who should be working with data. It should be people with the domain knowledge, but how to do it, that's where the infrastructure comes in. So first, let's take them one by one. So the DataOps. Well, it all started with developers and DevOps, right? So 20 years ago, when I started with data, we had admins, we had to build the servers, I had the whole army of people in tech, right? And it was like everybody had to wait for each other, right? So then developers wanted to decouple, decouple how the workflow. So the cloud started to enable that. So they started with the CI/CD pipeline, right? But the issue with that, there are 2 issues. The first one is that CI/CD pipeline and people who do that in DevOps, there's just software engineers. They are comfortable with code and running the stack. That's what they do. But in data, we have other personas. We have data engineers, data scientists, data analysts, analytical engineers. We have business analysts. We have partners. We have developers, and the list goes on and on. But in order to work with data and produce the results, we need to put all of them together. And that's what we need to think. So 2 cycles, prototype. When we put people together, they need to be able to work in agile way, right? Oh, I have an idea, let's do it, let's test it, let's fail fast, one more data source, let's bring data source, right? But once you go into production, you need to use different methods. You cannot be agile. You want to use, Six Sigma. You want to use statistical modeling to see that all of your pipelines actually run every day, every minute the same. This is a big issue once you go to large corporations. We work for Erste Bank, and this is like, they want to have hundreds of people, playing with data, prototyping, but then they are a regulated business. So everything needs to run. So how to do that? If you want to do it by code, everything manually, it's just hard. So that's where the second concept comes in. That's where the data mesh comes in. And I think data mesh is one of the most logical things I've seen in 20 years. It's just like once you see it, you cannot unsee it, right? Once somebody draws a picture like this, you are like, okay, we need to put people together so they would work in teams. Yay, right? Who do we need there? Well, we need someone with technical skills, someone who can work with data, and someone with the domain knowledge. Okay, that's not enough. What else? They can actually produce something which is then, like saved somewhere and nobody reuses it. That's the second point. They need to treat their data sets as a product. They need to think about who is gonna use them, where, how are they gonna version them, how are they gonna do change management, right? And how are they gonna decouple them and allow other people to reuse them. That's a very important point. So, and the third point is we need to provide infrastructure, data stack to them as a platform. So they don't have to wait for corporate IT. And this is really big. It has a lot of issues. I will talk about them in next step, but yes, that's a theory. Once you do that, this would be called quantum. People with different skills, data access, and access to technology. So let's talk about the third point, and that's the infrastructure, data infrastructure as a platform. So again, just like once more, the same picture from different angle. These are all the tools in modern data stack. They are awesome. Most of them are awesome on their own. The issue is how to operate them together. The issue is, how to make it easy so all of those 8 different data personas can actually work together and produce something. That is an issue. For that, we need to change how we actually think about data architecture and infrastructure of data. So this is something, how we do it, and how we think, is a good way to do it. I'm not saying it's the only way, obviously, but I think what we need to do and what we've been doing for a couple of years now is to decouple the definition, the different steps in data pipelines, to have non-linear definition of pipelines. So basically, you need to be able to go step by step, use different tools, use different access to people, but have governed access to those tools, work together, and you should not be operating those tools. That should be the job of a platform. That should be done automatically. So basically what we do is kind of like, well, you want to use Extractor from Stage 5, 10, or us, okay, use it within this environment, we provision it for you. You can actually set up the job for it, set up the definition, and then you click and it creates a job. And then it's a job of the platform to couple it with underlying infrastructure, right? So many people can do that. Then you move, what actually happens is then the data management and warehousing is done automatically. It sits somewhere, it sits in Snowflake, it sits in Firebolt or Exasol, and the platform provisions the infrastructure for you. If you do that, you actually accomplish several things. First of all, you can run the jobs in parallel, which is huge. If you have large organizations, you can save a lot of money. Second, because the platform is actually taking care of the access of the management of users and infrastructure, you have the full governance. You have the full observability, audit logs, and metadata for everything. So what essentially is happening, and we see that with large financial institutions, you actually can start building the security operations and financial operations on top of that for the data stacks and data pipelines. When we go to large institutions, like the CIOs ask us, well, okay, great, we want to work with data. Yes, we want to work in cloud, but how do we govern it, right? And second, how do I know what pipeline, what use case, how much it costs? I'm like, why do you need that? Well, it's easy, because nowadays the IT budgets are not just like, oh, let's take 10% of the revenue, let's put it in IT. No, it's participatory, right? So the marketing has to say, okay, I'm gonna give you 10 million, right? What you gonna provide, And so the IT managers, they don't really know. So that's why they want to have observability into finances. And it's close to impossible to do it if you have, like the chaotic stack. You need to have a platform which manages that. And once you do that, so what we believe we need to do is to go from this stage. Well, you can use anything, but you have to do a lot of skills, and just do it to this stage. But yes, you can use the tools you love from the modern data stack, but you use them through a platform that manages them, that gives you an access, that provides scaling, and that actually automates everything. Well, what are the results, right? That's the question. Like, okay, different concept, different things, but what can you achieve with that? Let me share two things or three stories with you. A lot of people, you probably heard it say, well, data is the new oil. I actually look at it more like the golden fever, right? Oh, data, let's do something with data. And everybody's focusing on golden nuggets, the big chunks, the big use cases. Let's take it, put it here, right? Well, I cannot take it, so let's call more people to take it, right? But people who made the most money during the golden fever were people like this. People who actually sat every day by day at the creek, and they were sifting through sand, and every day they found one golden flake. This is how we need to behave. We need to take everybody from a company, sit them along the creek, the data, and every day get one insight. That really makes wonders. Two examples. Firehouse Subs, one of our clients in US, they've been working in this manner for last 4 years. When COVID hit, a lot of people in US went bankrupt or they had to downscale. They actually went online in 2 months. It was like 4 weeks or something like that. And 40% of their revenue, like this, switched to online. It was really, really, really interesting to see it, because everybody could have theories, they could work with data, and they could change how they operate. It was distributed. Second example is a company called Knuspro Rohlik, which actually is like Amazon Fresh or Gorillas. They deliver groceries. They started 4 years ago, and this year they're gonna hit 500 million euros in revenue. They are in 4 countries. Everybody's using data there, and the original team which took care of data ops is still there, but they didn't have to grow it to 100 people. No, because they were using different infrastructure as a platform. And I promised that I'm gonna share the numbers from the first slide, from the long tail. So this is a case of our customer called Mall Group. They are probably the largest e-commerce group in Europe. They actually purchased over 30 different e-commerce entities in 1 year, and they brought them together, and now they're doing billions of euros. But what's interesting is that because it was 30 different entities, each one of them had different tech, different stack, different people. So when they started the Center BI department, they calculated that they have 5 years of backlog. 5 years. They couldn't do anything, right? So they were like, well, we need to change that. So they started to think kind of like in data mesh, architecture, like, well, we want to enable people to do it together, right? Like, well, we need to change the infrastructure, we need to treat it as a platform, and we start to work together. After 2.5 years, the center data team is still doing 15 of the most, the biggest use cases, the customer 360, the logistics and everything. But then they actually have business and partners doing over 20 use cases together. So they're bringing external partners which work in the same environment together as a team. And the business is taking care of 400 use cases themselves. 400. And that is the long tail I was talking about. So it's easy. Change the process, change the architecture of the team, and change how you treat the data stack. Use it as a platform and decouple the dependencies. I think it's always about user experience. What do you want to do, right? What do you want your users to feel like? You can actually say, well, I want to be, my people be best baristas in the whole London. Well, good luck with that. It's like 5 of them, right? Or you can say, well, I want actually everybody, to have pretty decent, pretty good, experience with coffee, which is always the same. It doesn't suck with one touch of the button. And then, if that is your North Star, you need to change how you think. You need to re-architecture the whole process. And that, I think, is something we should strive for. There's always going to be baristas. Yes, we need to bring them in, right? But 99% of us are not the best baristas in the world, right? We just don't want to have good coffee with one click. So that's all. If you like what I was saying, if you have similar experiences, please reach out to me. There is our booth over there. Or just, let's connect on Twitter or LinkedIn. I would love to hear your stories. And that's it. Thank you for your attention. It was nice to see you. If you want more sugar, it's here. How did I do with time? Yeah? Okay. Well, guys, enjoy today. There is actually drinks at ThoughtSpot, Paul, can you raise your hand, please? Yes, they do drinks, which is awesome. And I hope you enjoyed today as the first day. I'm going to see you tomorrow. Have a great experience. Cheers. Bye-bye.